This news today, let's check out some business stories now. Senior research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Dr. Charles Aka, says diversifying the economy will be almost impossible if a deliberate long-term industrial development strategy is not in place. He says leaders must have the political will to embark on this course and look at diversifying, particularly the agri sector.
Although Ghana has transformed structurally, moving from an agrarian economy to more of services, it is yet to fully diversify. The country, after decades, continues to export raw materials with a major focus on cocoa and gold, whose prices government has no control over. Analysts say diversifying the economy is the surest way to creating more jobs for the youth, which the current services sector cannot ensure. But for them, that will only happen if there is a deliberate policy intervention.
It takes bold decisions, bold steps, bold investment. So the government has to show that they have the political will and they want to do it, they want to invest into it. That will require that we need to have an industrial development strategy. We need to have a long-term plan and say, okay, this is what we want to do and these are the strategies that we want to adopt. We are a country that we don't seem to be quite serious in thinking ahead 25 years, 50 years from now. So we're always looking at medium-term, short-term strategies. You will need to look at your trade strategy. You need to look at whether you want to adopt import substitution like Malaysia, for example.
He says the agriculture sector is the best option for diversification.
Like China, like India, like Brazil, we need to look at agriculture sector. I think it's still the sector where we have a competitive advantage. And look at, even if we want to concentrate on cocoa, yes, we don't need to export the raw cocoa beans. We can also add value. Why do we just export the raw cocoa beans? How much do we get for it? But once you add value to it, then you can get more money. You can also export them to several countries, not only to Europe, but also you get more foreign exchange. And also you create jobs as you're processing them. So also reduce our dependence on imports of these commodities that are coming all over from Asia and other countries. And that will save this hard foreign exchange that we are already struggling to maintain our reserves. That will stabilize our Ghanaian currency.
There have been calls for Ghana to diversify the oil and gas sector for development, but Dr. Charles Aka says that will not be a good option now, as the sector is still developing and remains resource dependent. Abigail Atmakwenchi for Joy News.
According to a new International Monetary Fund report, Ghana's public debt would hit a little over 70% of the country's total economic output by 2015, prompting concerns from the Bretton Woods institution. The IMF maintains when a country's debt exceeds 60% of its total economic value, economic stability becomes threatened. The report, Fiscal Monitor, outlines how governments around the world spend and mobilize revenue. Joy News' George Riafe in Washington with a team report. The document also reveals the IMF has some serious concerns with some economic data government has put out as part of a process to secure assistance from the Washington-based lender. The IMF also revealed that its assessment of the country's actual public debt was not consistent with figures put out by the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana puts the figure at 55%, representing 58 billion Ghana cedis, and the IMF says its figures are a little over 60%.